The great white shark's a great example. I was down about 40 feet. You go down in the cage and they take you down by a crane and they're dangling you at 40 feet. You open up the cage and you sit on top of the cage. And so at this point, you are very vulnerable. You are attached to the cage by I would say about a 10-foot feather. And at that point, sharks can come at you pretty much from any angle possible. So I remember down there and she must have seemed 18 to 20 foot, a couple 1,000-pound big mama just comes and swims. And she's no further than, I would say, 15 to 20 feet away from me. And she opens up her eye and she looks at me up and down. And I think in that moment, I felt there was like a complete mutual understanding between creatures in their rawest form. She understood that she could eat me at any moment. And I understood that there was nothing I could do about it.
Welcome to Success Reimagined. I am Dr. Amna Shabbir, your host on this journey to thrive at the intersection of ambition and wellness. In every episode, I'll help you challenge outdated definitions of success, discover practical tools and strategies for growth without compromising your well-being. I am so glad you've joined me. Let's reimagine what's possible together. Today's guest is someone who has truly redefined what it means to live adventurously. Shiraz Dalal is a commercial airline pilot, TEDx speaker, and global explorer whose adventures span all 7 continents and all 50 U.S. states. He has flown everything from Boeing 7 to hang gliders, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, wing-walked on airplanes, free-dived deep waters, and even swam with great white sharks without a cage. I had the privilege of meeting Shiraz as one of the speaker coaches for a TEDx rally, and I was immediately fascinated by the bold and curious way he lives his life. His story is about more than just adrenaline. It's about choosing courage, embracing the unknown, and saying yes to the things that make us feel most alive. Welcome to the podcast, Shiraz.
All right. Thank you very much, Amna. It's a pleasure to be here.
You've experienced moments most people never will. Wing walking, free diving, even swimming with sharks. What do these high adrenaline, awe-filled moments teach you about fear, aliveness, and how we might rewire our relationship with discomfort?
So a long time ago, yeah, I definitely learned that fear it's a lack of knowledge. Fear comes from a lack of knowledge. We fear what we don't know. Skydiving, just for example, people know what that's jumping out of a plane. People are like, oh, that's dangerous. Oh, that's dangerous. Have you ever done it before? Well, no, but it's dangerous. You're jumping out of a plane. Okay, but you've never done it before. So why don't we learn about the process? So the first time I went skydiving, for example, I didn't go tandem. Tandem's where you're attached to someone. What I did was I took a 9-hour class and then I had 2 instructors, one holding on each side of me. I learned the aerodynamics. I learned how to move my body. And if I was stable in free fall, they would let go of me. If I wasn't, they were there. Not a problem. So it took out the fear. Great white sharks. You said it in the introduction. I've dove with great white sharks out of the cage. It is amazing how calm a great white shark is 40 feet down. On the top of the surface, they're all skittish because the water's being chopped. But 40 feet down is where everything is just peaceful and calm. So that fear definitely comes from a lack of knowledge. And I've lived my life like that everywhere I've been. Wing walking, another great example. People are like, wing walking, that's absolutely insane. Okay. The guy who taught me how to wing walk has trained 90 to 95% of the world's wing walkers, and he's never dropped anyone. Odds are pretty good I'm going to be okay if I can do exactly what he says. I found a coach, I found a mentor, I found someone to teach me the ways. And so the way to overcome that fear was definitely by just simply increasing my knowledge. TEDx, another great example. People are like, oh, it's nervous to be on stage. Have you ever been on stage? No, then don't tell me it's going to be nerve wracking unless you've done it. Michael Jordan in The Last Dance, that famous series that we saw. He says, why be afraid of the shots I haven't even taken yet? Man, that struck me so much that day when I heard that. Why be afraid of the shots I haven't even taken yet? That's amazing to me. And I apply that to everything in life, and any of these thrill seeking or adrenaline filled that most people see as adrenaline filled. I just see it as an opportunity to learn and decrease that fear. So, yeah,
Opportunity to learn to decrease the fear. And I love how you said that fear stems from a lack of knowledge. I am trying to absorb what you said, but I mean, I'm also remembering the videos that you shared with me. And when I saw you wing walking, I said, no, I'm not doing that. But it is this conversation itself, when I was preparing for the interview, it just filled me again with such awe. And it was so humbling. I remember in one of these conversations, you also shared that this side of the awe and the humility that you've experienced when you are, for example, standing in front of a great white shark. Can
yeah,
you expand a little bit more about on that as well?
sure. So the great white shark's a great example. I was down about 40 feet, and you go down in the cage, and this is only if you're scuba qualified. You go down in the cage, and they take you down by a crane, and they're dangling you at 40 feet. And then you get the opportunity to open the cage. You open up the cage and you sit on top of the cage. And so at this point, you are very vulnerable. You are attached to the cage by I would say about a 10-foot feather. So you can separate yourself from the cage, or you can kind of just sit on top of the cage. Most of us are just sitting on top or sitting on the edge of the cage. And at that point, sharks can come at you pretty much from any angle, except where the cage is, obviously, but they can come at you from any angle. So I remember, and I was there sunrise to sunset. I was down as much as possible. There's no scuba diving times really for decompression or anything. It's not that deep or anything like that. So I was down as much as possible. So I remember down there, and she must have seemed 18 to 20 foot, a couple 1,000 pound big mama just comes and swims. And she's no further than, I would say, 15 to 20 feet away from me. And she opens up her eye and she looks at me up and down. And I think in that moment, I felt there was like a complete mutual understanding between creatures in their rawest form. I understood, well, she understood that she could eat me at any moment. And I understood that there was nothing I could do about it. And that period of vulnerability and that humbleness is actually not adrenaline filled, especially with someone who's skydive and wing walk and all of that stuff. It's actually quite the opposite. It's very peaceful. It's very calming. The more these situations you put yourself in, adrenaline filled to some people become peace and happiness to others. And so I've done a lot of very peaceful things. I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I don't consider myself an adrenaline junkie unless I'm having those conversations. Those are just moments that let me know how small in the world I truly am. And they extend to other moments. Just sitting on the ice in Antarctica, you can't fathom the size of some of these cliffs in Antarctica when it's so quiet, it's so peaceful. It's just being with nature. Nature itself is humbling in so many ways. And I love those moments. So everything I do that's humbling like that is usually with nature, whether it's sharks or it's skydiving or that's out in nature, that's being with it. So being present in the moment is a very big thing. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. So, yeah,
That is wonderful, very remarkable as you talk about it. Yeah, when somebody might look at your profile, they might think of the word adrenaline junkie. That yes, definitely would come, but that's I really appreciate how you reframe it into that experience where it is there is such humility. And when I was learning more about this journey that you've been on, to me came all these visions and moments where I'm working inside, I'm indoors, I'm boxed in, and I've got all my problems in my head with me all the time. I'm detached from my surroundings, from the larger universe in a way. I'm in my head, in my problems. I'm even detached from my own body because that's what we experience most of the time, especially in high achieving professions. You are literally experiencing a mind body disconnect. And when you talk about nature and your experiences, it's deeply humbling how present one can be. And we know that awe and wonder really help us reconnect with that well being component of
right.
all of this.
Right, right. We can say it outdoors, and that's great too. I can bring it indoors as well. A few years ago, well, I would say more than a few years ago, I took up dancing. Ballroom dancing. It started with swing dancing. It gravitated towards ballroom, and I started competing in ballroom dancing. Just being outside of your comfort zone, as we call it, and knowing that there is no comfort zone. Everything is uncomfortable. We're all just learning here. Just go do it. And so I became a competitive ballroom dancer a few years ago. And there's something in peace in that, right? I remember in my days before I had a family and all that stuff back in the day, I never wanted my kids that I would have one day to say, "Daddy, I want to try this," and me be too scared to do it. I always wanted to be, "Okay, let's go." There's nothing my kid can't throw at me now that I haven't done or I wouldn't do. And then we get into calculated risk versus stupid risk and risk management, but that's a different subject. But there's really nothing I'm not willing to do. Put your pride aside, become humble in life and go explore life. Life is beautiful in all ways, shapes, and forms. So, yeah.
Incredible. Shifting gears a little bit, sure, as you've gone from the military to commercial aviation, and then the pandemic hit, and the airline industry came to a sudden stop. How did you move through these transitions, and what helped you kind of redefine your sense of purpose in each chapter?
Yeah, that's a big one. Ooh, just time frame wise, 2014, I had been in the military 12, 13 years at that point, and I was going to make a tough decision. My next job was going to be a staff job. As a pilot in the military, that is a necessary position, but that was not a position I wanted to be in. I didn't want to go into a staff job at the time in my life. So I was like, okay, I'm not having fun anymore. I had been on 9 deployments at that time, and I love deploying. I love serving my country, but I had to make a decision whether I was going to take my chances in the airlines, which I did not have a job secured yet, or stay in the military and not be as happy as I possibly could be. So what I did in that time frame was I put the decision aside. I said, let me create my life. Let me spend time creating my budget, where I'm going to live, do all of this stuff. So I take out that fear. I'm increasing my knowledge base. Let me take out all of the fear out of making that decision of transitioning your life, not having a job or anything, and then I'll come back to that decision. So I really took out that fear by increasing my knowledge, finding out how I was going to live life, where I was going to live, how I was going to put food on my table. Now I was single at the time. That made it a little easier, but still just increase your knowledge. And then that honestly took about 3 to 4 weeks. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm tabling the decision. I'm not ignoring it. Every day I would chip away at, hey, what have I not thought about? How am I going to get to work? Where am I going to live? Because the airlines are in different cities and stuff like that. Then I went back and I made the decision. What's going to make me happy? Because now I've taken out the fear of step one or step two. So now I've got these two different options. Now I can make that decision on what I really want to make me happy. And I made the decision to transition to the airlines. However, I still didn't have a job for a year with the airlines. I had to be Air Force Reserve, and I continued flying with the Air Force Reserve. So I kind of had a backup, and that's okay. That's part of it. So I had a backup, and then I finally got hired by the airlines and started 6 months after that. Then fast forward. I think before we reached the pandemic, really started something for me mentally. 2019, January 3rd, I woke up and life was tough. Marriage at the time was tough. Business, I had a business. It was okay. It was a little rocky. I get it. We've all been there. I was in the airlines. I was happy there, but I had a side business and that was a little rocky. And I remember waking up January 3rd and I'm like, I have to make this year epic no matter what. And when I say epic, like, yeah, I've done some cool things. I need to go up a couple levels. I need to make this year epic. And there are two things that I've kept an eye on before, and I just decided that day, forget it, I'm doing them. Kilimanjaro and Antarctica, and I'm going to do them in the same year. So I went down, I talked it over with the family. I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to sacrifice. I need to do this for me. Okay. So I spent the next 9 months training for Kilimanjaro. And then the bonus, the icing on the cake was Antarctica, and that would have been my seventh continent at the time. Now, I'm not a rock climber. I'm arguably not a camper. Really, I did some camping back in the day in the army. So I had to teach myself all of these skills. Here it comes from a lack of knowledge. You build yourself, your knowledge base up. You start taking the fear out of these things. You learn skills on hiking. Hiking Kilimanjaro, you need trekking poles. I remember always making fun of people with trekking poles. They look so goofy and everything. And then I learned how to use them properly. I no longer make fun of people with trekking poles. I freaking love them. That got me up the mountain, for example. So I had to learn a bunch of skills. And once again, when you look back on it, the dots always connect looking back, right? They never look going forward. You're just building that knowledge base and you taking out the fear of different parts of that decision. So did Kilimanjaro, then did Antarctica just a couple months later, took the time off of work, sacrificed some things, got into debt financially as well. That's fine. Those were epic life experiences. That was 2019. 3 months later, what happens? COVID. Boom. I was like, wow. First of all, my first thought was, I am glad I did not wait to do things in my life that I've always wanted to do. That was live life in the moment. If you want to do something, go do it. Life is too short. COVID taught me that, definitely. And I was like, whew, I had done those two things. Okay, let's go through COVID. So I got back from Kilimanjaro and Antarctica. Now I've got all these stories. So I started learning the coaching world and I started becoming a coach, leadership coach. I used some lessons from the military. John Maxwell, if you've heard of him, he's a big leadership guru. I'm a John Maxwell coach. I went through that certification process. And as COVID hit, I was getting into this coaching world. And so I was learning all these skills and I truly believe right time, right place. I was learning these skills to get me through this moment. This is my moment. So the last day I flew for the airlines was April 3rd of that year when COVID hit. So that's almost like 2 or 3 weeks after airspace shut down. I was still flying, and then April 3rd, I knew I was going on my last flight. I went up to JFK. The airport was empty. I went to San Francisco and back, and the crew, only a crew of six, outnumbered the amount of passengers I had on my plane, both ways. I was like, okay, that's it. Went home from that trip. I was like, I am not going to give myself an inch. I'm not a morning person. I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock every day. We don't know how long this is going to last. I am not going to let myself go into a lull, not even for a day. We have to stay focused. We have to stay engaged. We will make it through this. We just have to drive through this one day at a time. I did not give myself a week. I didn't give myself a day to calm down from this. 5 o'clock a.m., not a morning person, woke up, celery juiced, worked out, got to work on my coaching business and started building up the coaching business. So that was a nerve wracking time for a lot of people. I get it. But you gave yourself moments to say, why me? Why now? I never gave myself those moments. I didn't want to give myself those moments. Emotions, we talk about emotions and all, those are words we've constructed. If every time you cry as a baby, people tell you you're sad, oh, why does that hurt? Instead of, like, I know this is ridiculous, it's sounding, but if you had told a kid, why are you so happy? That's awesome. You're so happy when you're crying. They will grow up thinking that happiness is crying and they'll cry a lot. But so that's the thing. We use words, but some people use words in the wrong way. And I think that's a big thing. Don't discomfort. Discomfort's a big thing, right? People say, oh, I'm not comfortable in this situation or not. You're assigning a word, and then with that word comes a lot of baggage with it, just pure baggage that comes with it. And that's when all the noise comes in. Stop using those powerful words. They are very, very powerful words. They're just used in the wrong way. I'm comfortable. I'm happy. I'm driving forward. I'm motivated. Not those other words. So that's just how I kind of saw it. And that's how I got through COVID. I didn't fly for about 4 months during COVID. And then sure enough, the flights started coming. And 4 months for a pilot is a long time, by the way. It's a long time. I actually had to go back to the simulator to get what we call as recurrent before I went on my first flight again. And so I went, did that, and started flying again, and then just got through it. And sure enough, we just got through it and we moved on. So I will be mentally prepared. I will go into that same condition should that ever happen again. Hopefully not. But should it ever happen again, I know how I'm ready for war. Comes from the military maybe, but I'm ready for war. I've got that game plan set out, and you can apply that to other things. You can apply that to a health scare. Heaven forbid we get health scares in our lives, but it's a part of life. You can just play the numbers. Cancer, heart disease, all of this stuff is very rampant in our society these days. Have a game plan and don't give yourself time. The ones who survive are truly the ones who are, I'm fighting this. Let's go. It's my time. This is my time. Not to me. Why is this happening to me? This isn't, that's that's not going to serve you. And those are the people who struggle. Those are the people who really don't do so well. Let's say they said it during POW during Vietnam as well. The people who survived the prisoner of war experience in Vietnam were the ones who didn't say I was going to get out at Thanksgiving. I'm going to get out over Christmas, because those times would come and go. I'll get out when I'm at home. Let's go. We're going to take this day by day. The guys who had the most positive mental attitude and believed that they were going to survive are the ones who did. The ones who let themselves lament on it and why am I here in a prisoner of war camp and all of that stuff, those are the ones who didn't make it. We need to apply those lessons to our own lives. And I think that's invaluable for everyone. So, no matter if you're military or a pilot or whatever, those all are lessons we.
Fascinating, fascinating take, Shiraz, and incredible resilience is what I see and hear from her story. And talking about stories, we met through TEDx Rally. I was so drawn to how you use storytelling to bring these incredible life experiences that you've shared into focus. What inspired your TED Talk, and what message do you hope people take from it?
So my TED Talk was actually pretty funny. When I first auditioned for to give a TED Talk, that's another story, but that was kind of on a dare, which is pretty funny in itself. But I sold the idea for a TED Talk is pretty much kind of what we were talking about earlier is I've been on a bunch of adventures and why you should too and how that will improve your life. That was what my TED Talk was originally on. Now, as I went through master classes and prepared for it, I gave my TED Talk. And in my TED Talk that I was planning, I said the one simple line of this is what pilots use. We aviate, navigate, communicate. And the entire class, including the instructor, stopped me right there. They're like, wait, what did you say? I was like, what do you mean? Aviate, navigate, communicate. They're like, that's your TED Talk. I'm like, that's what all aviation professionals, that's the thing we learned from day one. All aviation pilots learn aviate, navigate, communicate. They're like, that's your talk. Forget everything else. Forget your adventures. That's about you. This is something we need. This is something we as the public need. So I regenerated my entire TED Talk literally in a few weeks. And I went with aviate, navigate, communicate. Now, if you're a pilot, you're taught this from day one. What is the most important? Your first thing is fly the airplane. Sounds so simple. It's not always. When you have all this noise going on, passengers in the back and flight attendants and different emergencies going on, it becomes not so simple very, very quickly. But we do this aviate, navigate, communicate, fly the airplane, point the plane in the direction you want to go, and then communicate it to others. How that can be applied to everyone is you have to filter out the noise of your life. When things are going wrong, filter out anything that isn't taking care of mind, body, and soul, if you will. Water, food, if you need to go into a survival mode. What do I need to survive? Aviate. Aviate yourself, aviate your immediate life, filter out the noise. Then we can navigate. Then we can point our plane, our lives, in the direction of the nearest airport if we need to get on the ground or a suitable airport. There's a difference in that in the aviation world. But for this, point your direction, point your plane, point yourself in the direction to safety, and then communicate to the world, communicate to others, bring in other people to help you. If you need a coach or mentor to help you get to that airport where that destination you want in life, go find it. You need to communicate that with people. But once you've taken care of yourself, aviate, navigate, point it in the direction you need to go, communicate, you can get there quicker. So that was kind of the inspiration. And I took the lessons we learned at 30,000 feet and I brought it down to a level that we can all use in our lives, in our daily lives. And even sometimes when things may go a little weird in my life, I'm like, just aviate, navigate. Like, seriously, I apply this on a daily, filter out the noise. The noise isn't important. You need to factor out what is noise. Sometimes I hate to say it. Sometimes the noise may be a spouse. It may be your kids. I hate to say that, but it's the truth, especially for perfectionists, for high achieving individuals. Sometimes that noise is right beside, you know why you're there. You've gotten there for a reason. Drive forward. Take out emotion is a huge noise. Once again, we go back to the discomfort conversation. Why are you wasting time assigning words and with all the baggage that comes in with these powerful words? Don't use them. Don't think you're discomfort. Don't think you're sad. Don't think woe is me. You don't have time for that. That's part of the noise that you need to filter out when you're talking about aviate. None of that's important. So that's kind of the inspiration that came behind my talk. And this is expanding on it a little bit more, but you can go see my TED talk online as well. So there you go.
We're going to add the links for your amazing
Sure.
TEDx to the conversation. You've absolutely powerfully shared that we are so overstimulated right now as a society and as a high achiever when you want all the things and then when you add perfectionism in the mix, you want everything done perfectly, everything. There is no space when we're talking about whether it's things at home, these are the aspects of your work, whether it's your social life, everything has to look flawless 100%, and it's all coming at you. So, what a powerful way. The first thing you need to do is tune out the noise to aviate. Thank you for sharing that, Shiraz. And kind of speaking a little bit more on through the lens of perfectionism, and I know earlier alluded to the fact that many of us, especially high achievers, we live in our heads and we do chase perfect. We're disconnected from our bodies and we rarely feel in tune with what's happening in the world around us. So, did you ever grapple with perfectionism? And if you have any your lived experiences, how did they shape your relationship with control and presence or success?
Loaded question. We're going to answer that in parts. Perfectionism. I don't think I'm a perfectionist anymore. I think there was a one time when maybe I would have been considered a perfectionist, but I kind of have come to a realization. Now, I'll throw something out at you. And when you told me you wanted to do this podcast, for example, I listened to a lot of your talks. They were amazing. And it gave me an opportunity to really think on it. And I came up with this and I actually wrote this down because I've been thinking about it constantly since I've hearing those talks. So maybe perfectionism is the peace we reach while seeking perfectionism, knowing we will never obtain it, but still chasing it. And then being okay with that. Maybe that's truly what perfectionism about. It's trying to reach that moment, knowing you'll never get there, but always trying to reach it. You'll hear pilots, especially in the commercial world, talk about, I want that perfect flight. You'll never get that perfect flight. There's always some little mistake we'll make, a bad radio call or something that's not critical, but we're always chasing that perfect flight. Maybe the day I retire, maybe my last flight will be the perfect flight. Perfectionism is a state of mind. And once again, if you start identifying yourself as a perfectionist, I think that may be a flaw in itself as a perfectionist because you're chasing this identity that maybe not be you. And you need to be okay with not ever achieving it because a true perfectionist knows they will never achieve that perfect moment, but they still chase it. And it's okay to still chase it, but you also have to deal with knowing you'll never reach it. So I think that's a big mind shift in the world of perfectionism that people need to grasp. And it really came to me as I was listening to your podcast and a few others as well. And it's mind blowing to me because I've never really thought about it. And I journaled about it as well. And I wrote about it. I'm like, this is deep. I got to think this through. And honestly, I'm still thinking it through. Maybe it's that moment that I'm trying to seek that knowledge without ever knowing I'll ever obtain it. So, uh, as far as control is an illusion. And yeah, you're hearing a pilot say control is an illusion. And what does that mean? Oh my God, he's not in control. Yeah, I'm in control of my plane and stuff like that. But nature is a funny way of humbling us at many moments. All we can do is be prepared for what's next. We aviate, we navigate, we communicate, we adapt. We don't dwell on something in the aviation world. If you have a fire that goes on, the plane is still moving forward. You're going 8 miles a minute. If I think about, oh, why is this happening to me? I've gone 8 miles and 200 people in the back of my plane are counting me to be present in the moment, which is now 8 miles further rather than 8 miles behind me, wondering why that happened. Or if I'm going down the runway and I have an engine fail, I need to be at that brick on the runway. I don't need to be at the start. Oh, why did this happen? And I need to be right here, right now, and dealing with the problem in front of me right now, given the information I have. And if I don't have enough information, I need to get more information. So we don't, it sounds almost cliche ish. Pilots don't have a chance to be fearful. They don't have a chance to be, they really don't because they're in the moment. Any of the accidents that have happened, you'll hear the audio recording. Most of these pilots are fighting all the way down to the last moment. They are in the moment. They're not going down saying, oh, why is this happening to me? No, none of that. They're fighting that plane till the very last moment until control is completely gone. And that's just how it is. That's control. If we think we have control in life, you're living in a very small zone, right? And you can have control. I have control of this cup right now. Got it. All right. But so you're living in a very small area, a niche, right? Expand that and you'll see that control is an illusion. Now we have to deal with that. Acknowledge that, accept that, acknowledge that, and let's go from there. So I think that's really a big thing, especially when it comes to control. Control overall is an illusion. Everything, there's so many different factors that impact different things. I know that's pilot life, but that could be business life. That could be being a CEO. There's always things that come up that you didn't expect. Well, I have control of my business. Oh, really? Stock market just crashed. That tanked your business. Did you have control over that? No, but you're going to adapt to it. You're going to put those systems in place that can adapt to it. So I think it applies to all parts of our life. We just have to accept that we do not have that full control that we do. And once you accept that, you can deal with the systems and put the systems in place to best react, to best deal with those. And maybe it's a proactive system. Maybe it's not always a reactive system. Maybe you can be proactive, but you determine that in your life and for whatever avenue. Um, we always talk in the aviation world about what's the next threat. So we even brief this when we're briefing each other before a flight, the two pilots be like, hey, what's the biggest threat going into JFK, San Francisco, Chicago? We'll brief the threat so we're aware of the threat, but we'll also brief the mitigation techniques. So what are we going to do? Hey, we're flying a red eye tonight. We're a little tired, but this is what we're going to do to mitigate that threat. We're going to slow down. We're going to take our time. We're going to listen to radio calls. We're going to make sure everyone's good. We're going into San Francisco. It's busy. Hey, there may be some closures on this taxiway. How are we going to mitigate that? I'm not going to taxi as fast. I'm going to make sure both of us are looking outside, taxiing an airplane instead of just one of us trying to drive so we can back each other up. So different mitigation techniques when it comes to that. And that's how you can improve your control is get help, aviate, navigate. Okay.
First, I will say I am absolutely thrilled that you had those moments where you were listening to the podcast the episodes on perfectionism from my wonderful other guests. And I would love for our audience, whatever is coming up for you, as Shiraz has shared his wonderful journey, leave your thoughts on YouTube and Spotify for us. We would love to engage with those amazing comments and thoughts that you have and your insights on perfectionism and on control and presence and the wonderful tips that Shiraz has shared. I generally don't like the word tips as much because we try to hack our way through life these days, but that is such a powerful way. Like aviate, navigate, communicate. I can remember that right now, and so can our audience. So I would love to hear our audience's thoughts surrounding that. This has been wonderful, Shiraz. As we wrap up for today, I would love to hear what are some of your final takeaways to somebody who's feeling afraid, sort of stuck, or maybe disconnected? Because we've talked a lot about presence, about the illusion of control, about perfectionism, how you're not an adrenaline junkie, but those moments are really humbling. What would you say to them?
The words we choose are powerful. They can serve you or they can serve against you. Choose strong words. Words like discomfort don't serve you. Realize that those simple word comes with a lot of baggage that will weigh on you even more. Choose empowering words in your life. Don't use, well, I'm sad, I'm mad. Stop using these words. They don't serve you. I have an opportunity to grow. And I know that sounds cliche and it's hard to do in the moment. You've just been diagnosed, heaven forbid, with cancer or something like that. Game on. This is my moment. This is my time. Not, why did that happen to me? If you start letting yourself get into those moments, they come with a lot of weight. Just realize negative words come with a lot of weight. Positive words come with a lot of weight. If you condition your mind to stop using those negative words and just keep driving forward. I hate to say it, perfectionists will understand this. The perfectionists that listen to your podcast will understand this. No one cares about your emotions. I'm sorry to say, not many people really do care about your emotions. They care about that end result. You care about your emotions. You care about yourself. A lot of other people really don't. And I know that's hard to hear. Like my kids and my family, no, a lot of people, they care about your end result. Are you going to make it through? So make it through. Stop worrying. Emotions is words we associate with these things. And we're trying to assign a feeling, and we don't need to. We're trying to assign a feeling to different things in our life, and we're trying to identify in our life with different parts. Why are you wasting your time with that? Just focus on the task, get it done. That's all that matters. The end result, in this case, the end justifies the means. In a lot of cases, you've heard that before. The end justifies the means. People don't care about how you got there, they just care that you got there a lot of times. Now, Kilimanjaro, little exception. Success was in the journey, not the destination. I said that on Kilimanjaro a lot because altitude sickness can hit different people at different times. So success to me was measured in the person I became in those 9 months to attempt something like that, not in reaching the mountain. If I got altitude sickness, I got altitude sickness. I would have to come down to save my life. That's fine. I didn't, thankfully. However, success was in the person I became. So we have the ability as people to assign different feelings to our life, and just realize you can assign a negative feeling, you can assign a positive feeling. The choice is yours. If you choose to assign a negative feeling, you will struggle. If you choose to assign a positive feeling and something that's motivating and driving, the the sky's your limit. It truly is.
Thank you for sharing your wonderful insights, Shiraz. How can our audience connect with you and learn more about your work?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. You can see some of the pictures. Yeah, Wingwalking, and there's some cool videos on there as well. And you'll see the TEDx video link. So connect with me in any way. I love hearing people. I love hearing stories. I love, being told you're wrong, you're full of crap. Because I will ask you, why do you think that? And please educate me. I'm always learning. I'm always in a learning mode. So I would love to hear your personal experiences, and that helps me grow as a person and helps me to apply to different parts of my life.
Never shying away from challenges. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
You might believe you don't have the time or energy to focus on yourself, but this is exactly the right time to get serious about your well-being. You don't have to do it all alone. I'm here to help. If you enjoyed this video and are ready to take the next step, head over to dramnashabir.com where you'll find free resources you can access right away. The website link is below. Let's get started on your path to thriving.